Okay, so here's a little help video on solving quadratics by factoring. We are going to be solving the quadratic listed on your screen by the method of factoring. To do this, the factoring portion, there's a couple different ways to approach it, but many of my students are familiar with what we call the star method. And it's just a graphic organizer to help us do the factoring. So let's take a look at how this happens. To begin with, I take the product of my A and my C terms here. This is A, this is C. I take the product of those terms and put it on the top of the star. So my 2 times negative 5 goes up there. So 2 times negative 5, which we know is negative 10, goes on the top of my star. And then on the bottom of the star goes the B term, which we know is negative 3. So that's the B term. And then my A term again goes on the left and right top portions of the star. 2 and 2. Now remember, if there's no number out in front here, if it's just the x squared term by itself, that A term is 1. So I would put a 1 here and a 1 here. But I do have a number there. So now let's go ahead. I have to find two numbers such that they multiply to this top value and they add to the bottom value. So going through my factors of 10, I have 1 and 10, which I can't get a negative 3 out of 1 and 10. I also have 2 and 5, and I actually can get negative 3 out of 2 and 5 if I use a negative 5 and a positive 2, and that also multiplies then to my negative 10. So that's great. So now I have to look at each of these parts as if they were fractions. So I look at the 2 over negative 5 as if it was a fraction and say, can I simplify that at all? And I cannot. And then I look at my 2 over 2 and see, can I simplify that at all? And I can. I can divide a 2 into each of those, and so this becomes a 1 and a 1. Now I take each of these quote-unquote fractions, and I use them to create my two binomial factors. So I'm going to use this first one, and that now becomes 2x minus 5. So the 2 goes here with the x, and then minus 5, because this is a negative 5, times 1x plus 1, because this is a 1 on top, that goes with the x, and then the positive 1 on the bottom is my adding the 1 there, equals 0. And now we apply the zero product property, which states that if I'm multiplying two things together and their product comes out to be 0, one of those two things has to be 0. So this means either my 2x minus 5 has to equal 0, or my 1x plus 1 has to equal 0. To actually solve both of those. So I'm going to add 5 here. Plus 5, I get 2x equals 5. Divide by 2, and I get x equals 2.5. Here I go my minus 1. I get, well, 1x is really just x equals negative 1. So my solutions are x equals 2.5 or negative 1. Here we go. We have just solved this quadratic equation by factoring. This method works really well as long as I can factor it with integers. I hope that helps. Good luck.